My name is Tyler Matthews, 34 years old, and last month I became the Senior Development Manager at TechVision after a decade of pouring my heart and soul into coding. I planned a special dinner at Riverside Grill to celebrate this milestone, making reservations 3 months in advance. Throughout my life, my parents have always favored my younger brother Brendan. But that text message during my celebration dinner, "You're not our priority right now," finally pushed me over the edge. If you've ever felt like the second choice in your own family, hit that like button and subscribe to support this channel. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. And stick around to see how I finally stood up for myself after years of being overlooked. My journey at TechVision began 10 years ago when I joined as a junior software engineer fresh out of college. While most of my friends were enjoying their 20s, I was grinding away at my desk, often staying until midnight to complete projects. I can't count how many weekends I sacrificed, how many holidays I spent debugging code instead of celebrating with loved ones. I missed family gatherings, canceled dates, and eventually watched my college relationship dissolve because my girlfriend couldn't understand why my work consumed so much of my life. But that dedication wasn't just about career ambition. Deep down, I was still the kid desperately trying to make his parents proud. You see, in the Matthews family hierarchy, I was always second fiddle to my younger brother Brendan. Brendan is 28, 6 years my junior, and has always been the golden child. He has this undeniable charisma that makes people gravitate toward him. When he walks into a room, it lights up. He tells the best jokes, remembers everyone's names, and makes people feel special. These are wonderful qualities, I admit. But beneath that charm lies a pattern of irresponsibility that my parents have always been blind to. While I was saving for college, Brendan was crashing cars that my parents eagerly replaced. When I was working 2 jobs during university, Brendan was dropping out of his 3rd attempt at community college because the vibe wasn't right. His employment history reads like a restaurant menu because he's tried everything and committed to nothing. Retail, bartending, insurance sales, personal training. Startup ideas that never materialized beyond expensive business cards. Each time he quit or was fired, my parents would console him. "You're just too creative for conventional jobs, sweetie." I still remember my high school graduation. I was valedictorian, and gave what I thought was a pretty good speech. Afterward, as people congratulated me, my mother spent the entire time talking about how Brendan had made the winning goal in his middle school soccer game the previous week. My father nodded along enthusiastically, barely acknowledging my academic achievement that would lead to a scholarship. When I bought my first car with my own savings, a practical used Honda, my father merely glanced at it and said, "Smart choice." 3 years later, when Brendan turned 16, they surprised him with a brand new Jeep. When I asked about the disparity, my mother said, "Brendan needs more encouragement than you do. You're already so self-sufficient." And that became the narrative of our family. Tyler doesn't need attention because he's fine on his own. Tyler doesn't need praise because he's naturally motivated. Tyler doesn't need help because he always figures things out. Meanwhile, Brendan required constant support, endless encouragement, and financial bailouts that became so routine they were practically scheduled into my parents' budget. Don't get me wrong, I love my brother. When he's at his best, he's incredibly fun to be around. But as we grew older, the pattern became more problematic. Brendan would call me at 2 in the morning needing money for rent. He'd borrow my credit card for emergencies that turned out to be concert tickets. He'd promise jobs were just around the corner, only to quit within weeks because his boss didn't appreciate his creativity. Meanwhile, I was building something at TechVision. I started in the trenches, coding basic functions, then gradually took on more complex projects. I taught myself new programming languages on weekends. I volunteered for the projects no one wanted because they were too difficult or too critical to fail. Year after year, I received solid performance reviews, modest raises, and increasing responsibility. 3 months ago, everything changed. Our company was working on a major project for a healthcare client, developing software that would streamline patient care across 50 hospitals. The project was behind schedule, over budget, and the client was threatening to pull out. Our lead developer quit unexpectedly, leaving a mess of code that no one could decipher. I stepped in, working 20-hour days for 2 weeks straight. I reorganized the entire codebase, fixed critical bugs, and developed a new interface that actually addressed the client's needs. When we presented the revamped system, the client was so impressed they doubled their contract. TechVision saved a $5 million account because of my work. The following Monday, my boss called me into her office. I thought it might be a thank you, maybe a bonus. Instead, she offered me the position of Senior Development Manager, a role that would double my salary, give me a team of 15 developers, and a seat at the leadership table. After a decade of work, I was finally being recognized. That evening, I called my parents, hoping they'd share my excitement. My mother answered, and I told her the news. My voice probably higher pitched than usual from pure adrenaline. "That's nice, honey," she said, but I could hear distraction in her voice. "Mom, this is a huge promotion," I emphasized. "I'll be making twice what I make now." "That's wonderful," she replied, sounding slightly more interested. "We're so proud of you." I heard my father in the background asking who was calling. "It's Tyler," my mother said. "He got promoted." I heard my father's muffled response. "Tell him congratulations." Not, "Put him on speaker," or, "Let me talk to him." Just a second-hand congratulations passed along like a message to a casual acquaintance. Still, I pressed on. I want to celebrate with the family. I've made a reservation at Riverside Grill for this Saturday. I know it's short notice, but I'd love for everyone to come. Riverside Grill was the most exclusive restaurant in our city, boasting a 3-month waiting list. I'd called in a favor from a client who knew the owner to secure a table for 6. "This Saturday?" My mother hesitated. "Let me check our calendar." I heard murmuring in the background. "Yes, I think we can make it," she finally said. "What time?" 7:30. I replied, relief flooding through me. "I've invited Jamie and her husband too." Jamie is my sister, 32, the middle child, who generally tried to stay neutral in the family dynamics. "We'll be there," my mother promised before quickly changing the subject to Brendan's latest job prospect, something about a tech company hiring sales representatives. I hung up feeling a mixture of excitement and that familiar twinge of disappointment. Even in my moment of triumph, Brendan's potential job interview took precedence over my actual promotion. The next day, I met my friend Marcus for lunch and told him about the dinner plans. "Are you sure this is a good idea?" he asked carefully. "Your family doesn't exactly have the best track record of showing up for you. This is different," I insisted. "This is a major life achievement. They'll be there." Marcus looked unconvinced. "Just don't get your hopes too high, man. I don't want to see you disappointed again." I dismissed his concerns. "It's going to be fine. This time is different." I spent the next few days preparing for the dinner. I bought a new suit, practiced a little speech expressing gratitude for my family's support, and researched the perfect wine to order. In my mind, this dinner represented more than a celebration of my promotion. It was finally my turn to be the center of attention, to have my family acknowledge my hard work and success. After years of being in Brendan's shadow, I thought this achievement would finally bring me into the light. The day I received the promotion still feels surreal when I think back on it. I was called into CEO Sarah Wilson's office, which already had me nervous. Our CEO rarely met with anyone below director level, so I racked my brain trying to figure out what I might have done wrong. When I entered, I found not just Sarah, but also my direct manager Alicia, and the VP of Product Development, Richard. They were all smiling, which confused me even more. "Tyler," Sarah began, standing to shake my hand. I'll get right to the point. Your work on the MediSync project didn't just save an account. It showcased exactly the kind of leadership and technical excellence we value at TechVision. I nodded, still uncertain where this was heading. We've been discussing the senior development manager position for some time, she continued, and after what you accomplished these past weeks, the decision was unanimous. We'd like to offer you the role. My mind went blank for a second. This position typically went to people with 15 years of experience, not 10. It was a leadership role that oversaw critical projects and shaped the company's technical direction. I'm honored, I managed to say, trying to maintain some professional composure while my heart pounded in my chest. Alicia handed me a folder. This outlines the details of the offer. The salary increase is substantial. And there's a signing bonus in recognition of your work on MediSync. I opened the folder and nearly choked when I saw the numbers. My salary would more than double. And the bonus alone was enough for a down payment on a house. We need your leadership, Tyler, Richard added. You've earned this through consistent excellence, not just one project. Though that project certainly removed any doubts anyone might have had. The meeting continued with details about my new responsibilities, the team I'd be managing, and the projects in the pipeline. Throughout it all, I felt a surreal mixture of pride and validation. 10 years of hard work had finally paid off. When I left the office, my team was waiting outside with champagne and cupcakes. Someone had tipped them off. They erupted in applause as I emerged. Speech! Called out Devin, one of the developers I'd mentored over the past 2 years. Overwhelmed. I thanked them for their support, and promised to be the kind of manager they deserved. This promotion isn't just about me, I told them. It's about the incredible work we do together. The celebration continued for about an hour before we all returned to our desks. Throughout the day, colleagues stopped by to congratulate me. Several senior managers sent emails welcoming me to the leadership team. Even the client from MediSync sent a note saying they were pleased I'd be more involved in their projects going forward. As soon as I had a private moment, I called my parents. I wanted them to be the first family members to hear my news. My mother answered, and I immediately launched into my announcement, barely containing my excitement. Mom, I got the promotion! Senior Development Manager! It's a huge deal, they've doubled my salary, and I'll be on the leadership team now. That's nice, honey, she replied, but I could hear commotion in the background. Is everything okay? I asked. Oh, yes, just trying to help your brother with something. He's applying for jobs again. Of course. Brendan's job search took precedence over my career milestone. I pushed down the familiar feeling of disappointment. Well, I want to celebrate with the family, I continued. I've made a reservation at Riverside Grill for Saturday night. It's nearly impossible to get a table there, but I managed to pull some strings. There was a pause. Some muffled conversation I couldn't make out. Saturday? This Saturday? She asked. Yes, at 7:30. I know it's short notice, but this is really special to me. Another pause. Let me check our calendar. I waited, hearing pages turning. My parents still kept a physical calendar in the kitchen despite my many attempts to get them to use digital calendars. Yes. I think we can make it, she finally said, though she didn't sound entirely certain. 7:30 at Riverside Grill. Great. I've invited Jamie and Kevin too. Jamie, my sister, and her husband Kevin generally tried to stay neutral in family matters. We'll be there, my mother promised, then quickly changed the subject. Oh, did I tell you? Brendan has an interview with a tech company. They're hiring sales representatives. It sounds very promising. I felt a familiar twist in my stomach. Even now. Brendan's potential job interview took precedence over my actual promotion. That's great, I said flatly. Look, I need to get back to work. I'll text everyone the details for Saturday. After hanging up, I sent a group text to my family with the restaurant information and a note saying how much it would mean to have everyone there. My sister Jamie responded immediately with congratulations and confirmation. My parents sent a thumbs up emoji. Brendan didn't respond at all. That evening, I called Riverside Grill to confirm my reservation and made special arrangements. I ordered a premium champagne to be chilled and waiting. Selected a special dessert with "Congratulations" written in chocolate, and even arranged for the chef to prepare a few off-menu items I knew my family would love. I wanted everything to be perfect. The next day, I met my friend Marcus for lunch and filled him in on all the details. "So the family dinner is happening?" he asked, eyebrow raised skeptically. "Yes, everyone's confirmed," I said proudly. "Even Brendan through my parents anyway." Marcus leaned back in his chair. "And you're sure they'll show up?" "No offense, but your family doesn't exactly have the best track record when it comes to your events." I thought about my college graduation, where my parents arrived late and left early because Brendan had a minor cold. Or my 30th birthday, which they missed entirely because Brendan had broken up with his girlfriend and needed consoling. "This is different," I insisted. "This is a major life achievement. They'll be there." "I hope so," Marcus said, not looking convinced. "Just don't get your hopes too high. I don't want to see you disappointed again." "It's going to be fine," I assured him, and myself. "This time is different." Over the next few days, I was floating on air. At work, I began transitioning into my new role, attending leadership meetings and getting to know my team better. In the evenings, I prepared for the dinner. I bought a new suit, practiced a little speech thanking my family for their support, and researched the perfect wines to pair with our meal. In my mind, this dinner represented more than just a celebration of my promotion. It was finally my turn to be the center of attention, to have my family acknowledge my hard work and success. After years of being overshadowed by Brendan, I thought this achievement would finally bring me the recognition I'd been seeking for so long. Saturday morning, I sent another group text reminding everyone about dinner. Jamie responded enthusiastically. My mother sent another thumbs up. Brendan and my father didn't respond at all. A slight uneasiness settled in my stomach, but I pushed it away. They were probably just busy. They had confirmed earlier in the week. They would be there. This was my moment, and nothing would spoil it. Riverside Grill exudes exclusivity from the moment you approach its understated entrance. No flashy signs, just a discreet plaque beside a heavy wooden door. Inside, the lighting is perfectly calibrated to make everyone look their best, with candles on each table providing a warm, intimate glow. The decor balances modern elegance with classic comfort. Tables spaced generously to ensure private conversations remain private. I arrived 30 minutes early, dressed in my new charcoal gray suit with a subtle blue tie that brought out my eyes. The maitre d' greeted me by name. "Mr. Matthews, we've been expecting you. Your table is ready whenever you are." He led me to a round table in a prime location with a view of both the river through the floor-to-ceiling windows and the rest of the restaurant. Not too close to the kitchen. Not too close to the entrance. Perfect. "The champagne you requested is being chilled," he informed me. "Would you like us to bring it out when your guests arrive?" "Yes, that would be great," I replied, feeling a surge of excitement. This was really happening. I placed a small gift bag at each place setting. For my father, a premium bourbon he'd once mentioned wanting to try. For my mother, a silk scarf from her favorite designer. For Brendan, a pair of concert tickets for a band he loved. For Jamie and Kevin, a gift certificate for a weekend getaway at a bed and breakfast they'd been eyeing. Small tokens of appreciation, carefully chosen for each person. As I settled into my seat, I checked my phone. 7:15. They should be arriving soon. I texted Jamie to let her know I was already at the table. She responded immediately. Running about 15 minutes late. Kevin got caught up with work. So sorry. 15 minutes wasn't bad. I ordered a sparkling water and waited, occasionally nodding politely at the other diners. Many appeared to be celebrating special occasions too. Business deals closed, anniversaries, birthdays. The atmosphere was festive yet refined. 7:30 came and went. No sign of my parents or Brendan. I checked my phone again. No messages. 7:45. I sent a text to the family group. I'm at the table waiting for you all. Everything okay? No response. The waiter approached discreetly. Sir? Would you like to order some appetizers while you wait? Just a few more minutes, I said, forcing a smile. I'm sure they're just stuck in traffic. He nodded sympathetically and withdrew. 8 o'clock. Jamie texted again. Still trying to get away from work. So sorry. Maybe another 20 minutes. I called my parents. Straight to voicemail. I called Brendan. Same result. 8:15. I was now acutely aware of the glances from nearby tables. The solo diner at a table for 6, checking his phone repeatedly. The waitstaff exchanging concerned looks. My champagne remained unchilled, my carefully planned celebration unfolding into humiliation. I tried my parents again. Voicemail. I left a message this time. Hi, it's Tyler. I'm at Riverside Grill waiting for you. It's 8:15. Please call me back. The waiter returned, sympathy now clearly visible in his expression. Perhaps some wine while you wait? He suggested kindly. Yes. I agreed, defeated. The Cabernet, please. As he walked away, I noticed a couple at a nearby table quickly avert their gaze. They had been watching me. This sad man being stood up at what was obviously meant to be a special dinner. 8:30. Jamie texted. Kevin's still stuck. So sorry, might be another half hour. I didn't respond. What was the point? My special evening was crumbling before it had even begun. The waiter brought my wine, and I took a larger sip than I intended. 8:45. Now the stares were unmistakable. Even the waitstaff seemed to be giving me pitying looks. I sat there, alone with my untouched water glasses and perfectly folded napkins at empty places, feeling more embarrassed by the minute. I decided to try one more time. I called my mother's cell phone. It rang several times before going to voicemail. Not turned off then, just ignored. I swallowed hard against the lump forming in my throat. Sir? The waiter approached again. Would you like to order? Or perhaps you'd prefer to reschedule? The kindness in his voice only made it worse. He knew. Everyone knew. The man at the big table had been abandoned. Just a few more minutes, please, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. 9 o'clock. Over 90 minutes after I'd arrived, still sitting alone at a table for 6. The gifts looking more pathetic by the minute. The special menu I'd arranged with the chef going to waste. The evening I'd imagined, the validation I'd sought, all evaporating into the carefully conditioned air of Riverside Grill. I pulled out my phone one more time, not to call or text, but to distract myself from the humiliation. As I scrolled mindlessly through email, a new message appeared. Not a call, not a text, but an actual notification from my banking app. My brother Brendan had just used the emergency credit card I'd given him, the one connected to my account that was only for true emergencies. The charge? $200 at Spirit Liquors. While I sat alone at my celebration dinner, my brother was buying alcohol with my money. And my parents? Where were they? Why weren't they answering? I signaled to the waiter. Is everything all right, sir? He asked. I think I'll order now, I said quietly. Just for one. As I contemplated the menu, trying to decide what to order for my party of one, my phone finally buzzed with a message. My heart leapt, thinking perhaps there was a reasonable explanation for everyone's absence. Maybe a car accident, a sudden illness, something that would make sense of being abandoned on what should have been one of the proudest nights of my life. I looked down at my screen and saw my mother's name. Finally. Her message read, "Sorry, honey, we can't make it. Brendan just got a call back for a job interview tomorrow, and we're helping him prepare. You're not our priority right now. Celebrate with your work friends instead. Love you." The words hit me like a physical blow. You're not our priority right now. Not even trying to soften it or make excuses. Just the raw, honest truth I'd known deep down for years but had never heard stated so explicitly. I read the message 3 times, trying to process it. My vision blurred slightly, and I realized with horror that I was fighting back tears in a crowded restaurant. I blinked rapidly and took a deep breath. The waiter approached again, concern evident on his face. He'd clearly been watching my reaction to the message. "Sir? Is everything all right?" I looked up at him, struggling to maintain my composure. "My family won't be joining me tonight." He nodded, understanding immediately. "I'm very sorry to hear that. Would you prefer to cancel the reservation?" "No," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "I'd like to stay. I'll just need a table for one. And that champagne we discussed? Bring it anyway." "Of course, sir," he replied, gesturing to a smaller table by the window. "Would you prefer to move to a more comfortable location?" I nodded gratefully, gathering my pathetic gift bags and following him to the new table. As I sat down, the weight of what had just happened truly hit me. My entire family had chosen to skip my celebration dinner, a dinner I'd been planning for days, to help Brendan prepare for a job interview. An interview that, based on his history, he'd either blow off or quit within weeks if he actually got the job. I'd spent my entire life being the responsible one. The one who didn't need attention or support because I was self-sufficient. I'd bailed Brendan out countless times, financially and otherwise. I'd listened to my parents praise his meager efforts while taking my substantial achievements for granted. And now, on the night that should have been about celebrating my success, they couldn't even bother to show up. As the waiter returned with the champagne, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a group message from Brendan to the family chat, including me. It was a photo of him, my parents, and several of their friends gathered in our parents' living room. There was a banner hanging on the wall that read, "Nailing that interview!" Everyone was smiling, holding up glasses in a toast. My father had his arm around Brendan, beaming with pride. They hadn't just skipped my dinner. They were having a party for Brendan instead. I stared at the photo, emotions churning inside me. The waiter popped the champagne and began to pour it into a flute, but I barely noticed. My mind was racing through all the times I'd supported my brother over the years. The $3,000 I'd given him for rent when he was facing eviction last year. The time I'd spent hours helping him prepare for a job interview, coaching him on questions, helping him pick out a suit, only for him to show up late and lose the opportunity. The countless dinners I'd treated him to when he was between paychecks. The time I'd co-signed for his car loan, which I ended up paying off when he defaulted. And my parents. Their retirement accounts were woefully inadequate, something they'd admitted to me during a rare honest conversation about finances. "We're counting on you kids to help out when the time comes," my father had said, though we both knew he meant me specifically. Brendan could barely support himself. And while Jamie and Kevin were comfortable, they had 3 kids to put through college. The unspoken expectation had always been that I would be the family's safety net. My success wasn't celebrated because it was assumed. My financial support wasn't appreciated because it was expected. I wasn't a son achieving great things. I was a resource to be tapped when needed. I took a large sip of champagne, then another. The waiter hovered nearby, uncertain. "Would you like to order now, sir?" "Yes," I said, scanning the menu and selecting the most expensive steak they offered, along with all the premium sides. If I was paying for a dinner for 6 that had become a dinner for 1, I might as well enjoy it. As I waited for my food, I scrolled through my text history with my family. A pattern emerged that I'd been too blind to see. My parents only reached out when they needed something. Money for a home repair. Help with computer problems. Assistance with navigating healthcare paperwork. Brendan's messages were even more transparent, usually beginning with some version of, "Hey bro, hate to ask but..." Jamie was different. She at least maintained regular contact that didn't involve requests, and she seemed genuinely interested in my life. But she too had fallen into the family pattern of enabling Brendan and taking my stability for granted. My food arrived, a perfectly cooked ribeye with truffle mashed potatoes and roasted vegetables. Under different circumstances, it would have been a meal to savor. Now, it might as well have been cardboard. My phone rang. It was Marcus. "Hey," I answered. "What's up?" "Just checking in," he said. "How's the big family dinner going?" I laughed bitterly. "It's not. They didn't show up." "What? Are you serious?" His voice rose in disbelief. "Dead serious. Mom texted that they're helping Brendan prepare for a job interview. Direct quote, 'You're not our priority right now.'" There was a long pause. "Jesus, Tyler. That's really messed up." "It gets better," I continued, taking another drink of champagne. "They're having a party for him. A literal party with a banner and everything. They sent a group photo." "Where are you now?" Marcus asked, concern evident in his voice. "Still at Riverside Grill. Eating a very expensive steak by myself." "I'm coming," he said immediately. "Give me 20 minutes. I started to protest but realized I didn't want to be alone. "Thanks, Marcus." While I waited for my friend, I stared out the window at the river below. The water looked black in the darkness, with the lights of the city reflected on its surface. I thought about how long I'd been treading water in my family, keeping afloat, while everyone else seemed content to let me struggle. When Marcus arrived, the waiter seated him and brought another glass for the champagne. "I ordered too much food," I told him. "Help yourself." Marcus looked at me with sympathy but not pity, which I appreciated. "This is beyond messed up, Tyler. I knew your family took you for granted, but this is another level." "You know what's ironic?" I said, pushing food around my plate. "The job Brendan's interviewing for? It's at Apex Tech. I know their head of sales. I could have made one phone call and practically guaranteed him that position. But they didn't even ask." Marcus shook his head. "Because that would acknowledge that they need you, that you have value beyond what you can give them. It's easier to keep pretending that Brendan is just one lucky break away from success. Meanwhile, I'm expected to keep providing the safety net." "Did I ever tell you about my parents' retirement situation?" "No," Marcus said, taking a sip of champagne. "They have almost nothing saved. Dad made some bad investments, and they prioritized helping Brendan over saving for themselves. They're counting on me to support them. It's just assumed." Marcus looked genuinely shocked. "That's not fair to you." "None of this is fair," I replied, the champagne perhaps making me more candid than usual. "I've been the family bank and emotional support animal for years. And the one time I asked them to show up for me, to celebrate something important in my life, they chose Brendan. Again." "So what are you going to do?" Marcus asked. I stared into my glass, watching the bubbles rise to the surface. "I don't know. But something has to change. I can't keep doing this." For the first time in my life, I was facing the possibility that my relationship with my family might be fundamentally broken. That maybe it wasn't just a matter of trying harder or achieving more. That perhaps, no matter what I did, I would always be the one expected to give while receiving nothing in return. The realization was as painful as it was liberating. After Marcus arrived, the evening shifted from a failed family celebration to something more cathartic. We ordered another bottle of wine, and I found myself talking more openly about my family dynamics than I ever had before. "You know what hurts the most?" I said, the wine loosening my tongue. It's not even that they didn't show up. It's that they didn't think it would matter to me. Like my feelings aren't even a consideration. Marcus nodded, listening intently. They've taken you for granted for so long they don't even see it anymore. Exactly. And this job interview Brendan's prepping for? It's for a sales position at Apex Tech. The company where my college roommate David is now the VP of sales. I could have made one call and practically guaranteed him an interview, if not the job itself. Did they ask you to help? Marcus questioned. Nope. Never even mentioned it until Mom brought it up in passing when I called about my promotion. They'd rather throw a party and prepare him themselves than acknowledge that I might be useful for something other than financial bailouts. I pulled out my phone and showed Marcus the banking app notification. And look at this. While they're all having their little party, Brendan used my emergency credit card to buy $200 worth of liquor. Probably for the same party they're having instead of coming to my dinner. Marcus's eyes widened. $200? On alcohol? That's not an emergency, that's theft. It's been the pattern for years. I sighed. Brendan needs something, I provide it. My parents need something, I handle it. It's just expected. What about when you need something? Marcus asked quietly. I gestured around the half-empty restaurant. I think tonight answers that question pretty clearly. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the situation hanging between us. Then Marcus leaned forward. Tyler, can I be completely honest with you? Please do. This isn't going to change unless you change it. Your family has been operating this way for decades. They have no incentive to treat you differently because there have never been consequences for taking you for granted. His words hit me hard. Partly because of their truth and partly because they articulated something I'd been feeling but couldn't express. What exactly are you suggesting? I asked. I'm suggesting that maybe it's time to step back. Not cut them off entirely, but stop being the automatic solution to every problem. Stop being the bank of Tyler. Stop prioritizing people who just told you, in writing, that you're not their priority. I took another sip of wine, considering his words. They're still my family. Yes, they are. And families should support each other. Keyword being each other. This isn't mutual support, Tyler. This is you supporting everyone else while getting nothing in return. As much as I wanted to argue, I couldn't. The evidence was all around me. From the empty chairs at my table to the notification from my banking app to the group photo of the party they were having instead of celebrating with me. Did I ever tell you about my parents' retirement plan? I asked Marcus. No, what about it? There isn't one. Or rather, I am the plan. Dad made some bad investments years ago. And they've been playing catch-up ever since. Except instead of actually catching up, they've been helping Brendan financially. The unspoken expectation is that I'll support them when they can no longer work. Marcus shook his head in disbelief. That's not fair to you. None of this is fair, I replied. I've been the family bank and emotional support animal for years. And the one time I asked them to show up for me, to celebrate something important in my life, they chose Brendan. Again. So what are you going to do? Marcus asked. I stared into my wine glass, watching the liquid swirl as I tilted it slightly. I don't know. But something has to change. I can't keep doing this. We finished our meal and another bottle of wine. By the time we left Riverside Grill, it was nearly midnight. My phone had been suspiciously quiet all evening. No further messages from my family. Apparently, once they'd established I wasn't a priority, they felt no need to check in or apologize. Do you want me to drive you home? Marcus offered as we stood outside the restaurant. I hesitated. Actually, no. I think I need some time to think. I might get a hotel room tonight. Are you sure? You can crash at my place if you want. Thanks, but I think I need to be alone right now. Make some decisions. Marcus nodded, understanding. Call me tomorrow, okay? Let me know what you decide. As I watched him walk to his car, I felt a strange sense of clarity despite the wine. My entire life had been shaped by my desire to earn my family's approval and support. I'd worked harder, achieved more, given more, all in pursuit of recognition that never came. And tonight had finally shown me the truth I'd been avoiding. It was never going to come. No achievement would be enough. No sacrifice sufficient. I walked to a nearby hotel and checked in for the night. In my room, I sat at the desk and pulled out a piece of the hotel's stationery. I began to write. My thoughts flowing more clearly than I would have expected after several glasses of wine. I wrote about years of unbalanced family dynamics. About being taken for granted. About financial support that was expected but never appreciated. About achievements that were ignored while Brendan's smallest efforts were celebrated. About tonight's dinner, and what it had finally made clear to me. As I wrote, I realized what I needed to do. Not cut my family off entirely, but establish boundaries that had never existed. Stop being the automatic solution to every problem. Stop being available whenever they needed something while they couldn't spare even a few hours for me. It wouldn't be easy. There would be resistance, guilt trips, accusations of selfishness. But for the first time in my life, I felt ready to weather those storms. Ready to prioritize myself since no one else in my family would. I folded the letter and placed it in my wallet. Tomorrow, I would deliver it to my parents' house. Tonight, I would get some rest and prepare for what would surely be a difficult conversation. As I lay in the unfamiliar hotel bed, I felt a mixture of sadness and liberation. Sadness for the family relationship I had always wanted but never truly had. Liberation from the weight of expectations and one-sided support I had carried for so long. Something had broken tonight at Riverside Grill. But maybe, just maybe, something stronger could be built from the pieces. The next morning, I woke up in my hotel room with a surprisingly clear head despite the previous night's wine. The clarity I'd felt while writing my letter remained. This wasn't a rash decision fueled by hurt feelings. It was the culmination of years of imbalance finally tipping beyond what I could bear. I showered, put on the same suit from the night before, and checked out of the hotel. Instead of heading to my parents' house immediately, I stopped at a coffee shop to review what I'd written. In the sobering light of morning, I wanted to make sure I wasn't being unnecessarily harsh or reactive. The letter was firm but not cruel. It outlined specific patterns of behavior rather than hurling accusations. It established boundaries rather than burning bridges. It was, I decided, exactly what needed to be said. I drove to my parents' house, a modest two-story in the suburb where I'd grown up. It was just past 9 in the morning when I arrived. Both my parents' cars were in the driveway, along with Brendan's perpetually unwashed Jeep. No surprise he'd stayed over after their little party. For a moment, I considered ringing the doorbell, facing them directly. But I knew how that would go. My mother would make excuses, my father would get defensive. And Brendan would somehow make it about himself. The letter would allow me to say my piece without interruption or manipulation. I removed the envelope from my jacket pocket and was about to place it in their mailbox when I had a better idea. I took a photo of the letter with my phone, ensuring the text was clearly legible. Then I sent the image to our family group chat, followed by a text message. After 10 years of supporting this family emotionally and financially, I'm done. Let Brendan handle it now. Don't contact me until you understand what you've done. I dropped the physical letter in the mailbox, got back in my car, and drove away. As I turned the corner, I saw the front door open and my mother step out, phone in hand, looking confused. I didn't slow down. Once I was a few blocks away, I pulled over and turned off my phone completely. Not just silent, but powered down. The sense of relief was immediate and surprising. For the first time in years, I was unreachable. No one could call with an emergency, a request, a need. It was just me and the open road. I drove to Marcus's apartment, where he was waiting as promised. I texted him before turning off my phone, asking if I could stop by. "So you did it?" he asked as I entered. "I did," I replied, feeling strangely calm. Left a letter and sent them a digital copy to make sure they couldn't pretend not to have received it. "How do you feel?" I considered the question. Relieved, mostly. Like I've put down a weight I'd been carrying so long I forgot it was there. "What's your plan now?" Marcus asked. "I need some time away. I've got vacation days saved up. I'm thinking of taking a road trip, just driving without a destination for a while." Marcus nodded approvingly. "That sounds perfect. When will you turn your phone back on?" "Not for a while," I said. "I need complete radio silence from them. If I turn it on now, I'll just get sucked back into their drama and manipulation." "Use my landline if you need to make any calls," Marcus offered. "Stay as long as you need." I spent the day at Marcus's place, making arrangements for my impromptu vacation. I called my boss from Marcus's phone, explaining that I needed to take 2 weeks for a family emergency. Given my track record and recent promotion, she was understanding and supportive. "Take whatever time you need, Tyler. The team can manage, and we can discuss transitioning your new responsibilities when you return." I also called my landlord to let him know I'd be away, and asked a neighbor to collect my mail. By evening, everything was arranged. I would leave the next morning. Before going to sleep on Marcus's couch, curiosity got the better of me. I powered up my phone, bracing myself for the barrage. The notification screen filled immediately. 38 missed calls. 22 voicemails. 67 text messages. Several emails. Social media notifications. The digital equivalent of a 5-alarm fire. I didn't listen to the voicemails or read the emails, but I did skim through some of the texts. They followed a predictable pattern. From Mom, 9:14 a.m. "Tyler, what is this? Call me right away." From Mom, 9:20 a.m. "Please answer your phone. We need to talk about this." From Dad, 9:35 a.m. "Son, this is very dramatic. Let's discuss this like adults." From Brendan, 10:02 a.m. "Dude, WTF? Parents are freaking out." From Brendan, 10:05 a.m. "This is so selfish. You know they need help with the mortgage this month." And there it was. The real emergency. Not concern for my well-being or regret for missing my dinner. Panic about the mortgage payment I'd been helping with for the past year. My parents had become accustomed to my monthly contribution, which covered about a third of their payment. The texts grew increasingly desperate as the day progressed. From Mom, 12:47 p.m. "Tyler, please. The mortgage is due next week. We're counting on your help." From Dad, 1:22 p.m. "This isn't funny anymore. Your mother is very upset." From Brendan, 2:15 p.m. "You're being a total asshole right now. They're your parents." From Mom, 3:38 p.m. "We're sorry about missing your dinner. We didn't realize it was so important to you." That last one stung. They didn't realize that a celebration of the biggest achievement of my career at a restaurant that required months of advance booking would be so important to me. It perfectly encapsulated their attitude toward me and my accomplishments. The most recent messages took on a more conciliatory tone. From Mom, 7:42 p.m. "We love you, Tyler. Please call us." From Dad, 8:15 p.m. "We can work this out, son. Come home and let's talk." From Brendan, 9:03 p.m. "Okay, I admit I screwed up with the credit card. I'll pay you back." Notably absent was any acknowledgement of the deeper issues I'd outlined in my letter. No recognition of the years of imbalance, the taking for granted, the one-sided support. Just panic about the immediate financial impact of my absence and superficial apologies designed to bring me back into the fold. There were also several messages from Jamie, who seemed genuinely concerned. From Jamie, 10:25 a.m. "Tyler, I just saw your message. I'm so sorry about last night. Kevin and I should have made it regardless of work. From Jamie, 11:10 a.m. I understand why you're upset. What they did wasn't right. From Jamie, 2:34 p.m. Please let me know you're safe. I'm worried about you. From Jamie, 5:22 p.m. I'm on your side here. Call me when you're ready to talk. I sent her a quick text. I'm safe. Taking some time away. We'll call you in a few days. Then I turned my phone off again and went to sleep. The next morning, I loaded a suitcase into my car and hit the road with no particular destination in mind. Just driving, thinking, processing. The first day, I headed east, stopping at roadside diners and scenic overlooks. The second day, I turned north, finding a small bed and breakfast in a town I'd never heard of. Each day, I'd turn on my phone briefly to check essential emails and send Jamie a quick, "I'm fine" message. Each time, the flood of missed calls and messages from my parents and Brendan continued, though diminishing in frequency as days passed. On the fifth day, I received a text from Jamie that caught my attention. Just so you know, Brendan got that job at Apex Tech started yesterday. Mom and Dad are acting like he's cured cancer. I laughed out loud at the irony. The job interview they'd chosen over my celebration dinner had actually panned out. Good for Brendan, I supposed. Though I gave it 6 months at most before he quit or got fired. More interesting was a text I received the following day. Mom and Dad missed their mortgage payment. Bank called. Dad's freaking out. So they hadn't found another solution. They'd simply assumed I would come back, apologize for my dramatic behavior, and resume my financial support. They'd called my bluff. Except it wasn't a bluff. By the end of my first week away, the tenor of messages from my parents had shifted from demanding to desperate. My father actually used the word, please, multiple times in one message, something I couldn't recall him ever doing before. I spent the second week of my impromptu vacation reflecting on what I wanted my relationship with my family to look like going forward. I didn't want to cut them off entirely. But I couldn't go back to being the family ATM and emotional support with nothing in return. As I drove back toward the city on the final day of my trip, I felt centered and resolved. I had boundaries now, clearly defined and non-negotiable. I would no longer provide financial support without acknowledgement and reciprocity. I would no longer be available at a moment's notice for every crisis. I would prioritize myself, my career, and my own well-being, something my family had never done for me. Whether they could accept these new terms remained to be seen. But for the first time in my life, their acceptance wasn't my primary concern. I had finally realized that I didn't need their approval to validate my worth. My promotion, my achievements, my character, those spoke for themselves. I returned to Marcus's apartment, where I'd left my car, feeling transformed. The 2 weeks away had given me perspective I desperately needed. Welcome back, Marcus greeted me. You look different. I feel different, I replied. Better. Clearer. So what's the plan now? I took a deep breath. Now I face them. On my terms. After returning from my 2-week road trip, I spent one more night at Marcus's apartment before heading back to my own place. I needed to prepare mentally for the inevitable confrontation with my family. When I finally turned my phone back on permanently, there were over 100 missed calls and texts, though they had tapered off during the second week of my absence. I sent a single message to the family group chat. I'm back in town. Ready to talk if you are. My place, tomorrow at 2 p.m. The responses were immediate. My mother. We'll be there. My father. About time. Brendan. Whatever. Jamie. I'll come too. I spent the morning cleaning my apartment and preparing what I wanted to say. This wasn't going to be a conversation where I allowed myself to be guilted or manipulated. I had clear boundaries now, and I was prepared to enforce them regardless of the emotional fallout. At precisely 2 o'clock, my doorbell rang. They had arrived as a unit, my parents, Brendan and Jamie. Their expressions ranged from my mother's anxious smile to my father's tight-lipped frown to Brendan's performative indifference. Only Jamie looked genuinely concerned. "Tyler," my mother began as soon as they were seated in my living room, "we've been so worried about you. We need to discuss your financial obligations," my father added, cutting straight to his primary concern. I held up my hand. "Before anyone says anything else, I want to make something clear. This isn't a negotiation. I'm going to tell you how things will be going forward, and you can either accept it or not. But I'm not changing my mind." The shock on their faces would have been comical under different circumstances. They had never heard me speak with such authority, especially to them. "The past 2 weeks have given me a lot of clarity," I continued. "For years, I've been the family safety net. Financial support, emotional support, practical support. Always available. Always reliable. And in return, I've received very little acknowledgement or appreciation." "That's not true," my mother protested. "We've always been proud of you. So proud that you skipped my promotion dinner to throw a party for Brendan's job interview," I replied calmly. "So proud that you explicitly told me I wasn't a priority." "That was poorly phrased," my father admitted, surprising me. "Your mother didn't mean it that way. But it was honest," I countered. "It reflected how you actually feel and how you've always treated me. And that's what we need to discuss today." I outlined the pattern as I saw it. The years of being taken for granted. The constant expectation that I would provide financial support without question. The lack of interest in my achievements compared to the celebration of Brendan's smallest efforts. "The mortgage payment," my father interrupted. "The bank called. We're at risk of late fees." "I'm not talking about the mortgage right now," I said firmly. "I'm talking about the fundamental imbalance in our relationship." "But we need that money," he insisted. "We've budgeted expecting your contribution." "And that's exactly the problem," I replied. "You've come to expect my financial support without ever discussing it with me, without ever acknowledging it, without ever showing reciprocity in any form. What do you want? A thank you note every month?" Brendan interjected sarcastically. I turned to look at him directly. "What I want is for you to acknowledge that for years I've been subsidizing not just our parents but you as well. Emergency credit cards that are used for liquor. Rent payments when you're short. Car insurance. Phone bills. All while you bounce from job to job and party like you have no responsibilities." Brendan had the good sense to look slightly abashed, though he quickly covered it with a scowl. "And speaking of jobs," I continued, "congratulations on the position at Apex Tech. Jamie mentioned you started last week." "Yeah," Brendan replied, a hint of pride breaking through his affected disinterest. "Sales representative. Base salary plus commission. Funny thing about that," I said. "The VP of sales at Apex is my college roommate David. We still have dinner monthly. I could have made one phone call and guaranteed you at least an interview, if not the job itself. But none of you thought to ask for my help." The silence that followed was deafening. My parents exchanged uncomfortable glances. "We didn't want to impose," my mother finally said weakly. "But you have no problem imposing when it comes to money," I pointed out. "That's the inconsistency I'm talking about. You'll take my financial support without hesitation. But you won't acknowledge that I might have other value to the family." The conversation continued for nearly 2 hours. There were tears, primarily from my mother. There were defensive arguments, mainly from my father. There were sullen comments from Brendan. Throughout it all, I maintained my composure and kept returning to the core issues. Eventually, as the emotional intensity began to wane, I outlined my terms for moving forward. First, I will no longer be providing regular financial support to anyone. Not mortgage payments, not car insurance. not emergency credit cards. You need to live within your means. My father started to protest, but I continued. Second, I expect the same level of interest and support for my life and achievements as is given to Brendan or anyone else in this family. That means showing up when invited to important events. That means asking about my work and actually listening to the answers. And third, I need acknowledgement of the past. I need you all to recognize that the dynamic has been unhealthy and unfair, and to commit to changing it. To my surprise, it was Jamie who spoke up first. I think these are completely reasonable requests, and I'm ashamed I didn't see the pattern more clearly before. My mother wiped her eyes. We never meant to take you for granted, Tyler. You've always been so capable, so independent. We didn't think you needed us the way Brendan did. Everyone needs support, Mom, I said gently. Everyone needs to feel valued and prioritized sometimes. My father, ever practical, was most concerned about the financial implications. We'll need to make significant changes to our budget without your contribution. I know, I acknowledged. And I'm willing to help with the transition. I can recommend a financial advisor. I can help you create a realistic budget. But I won't be providing ongoing financial support. Brendan had been uncharacteristically quiet throughout much of the conversation. Finally, he spoke up. I didn't realize how much you were helping everyone. I just assumed Mom and Dad were covering their own expenses. They haven't been able to for some time, I told him. Between helping you and their own poor financial planning, they've been relying heavily on me. He nodded slowly. I'll help more. With the new job, I should be able to contribute something. It wasn't a profound transformation, but it was a start. We ended the meeting with tentative agreement to my terms. I didn't expect immediate change, but I felt hopeful that we had at least brought the issues into the open. The following months were a period of adjustment for everyone. My parents struggled with their new financial reality but gradually adapted. They sold their oversized house and moved into a more manageable condo. My father took on some consulting work to supplement his retirement income. My mother started part-time work at a local library, something she'd always wanted to do but never pursued. Brendan, to everyone's surprise including my own, thrived in his new job. The structure and incentive-based compensation suited him, and his natural charisma made him effective in sales. Even more surprisingly, he maintained the position past the 6-month mark I had mentally set as his likely limit. Jamie and I grew closer, our relationship strengthening now that I was setting healthy boundaries with the rest of the family. She confessed that she had always seen the imbalance but had been conflict-averse. Something she was working on changing. As for me, I settled into my new role at TechVision, embracing the leadership position and mentoring younger developers. I started dating again, meeting a wonderful woman named Claire through a workplace volunteer event. I began therapy to work through my deep-seated need for validation and approval, particularly from my family. 6 months after our confrontational family meeting, we gathered again, this time for a dinner I hosted at my apartment. It wasn't a fancy restaurant, but it was on my terms, in my space. The dynamics were noticeably different. My parents asked specific questions about my work and listened to the answers. Brendan shared his own work experiences without dominating the conversation. There was a balance that had never existed before. After dinner, my father pulled me aside. I want you to know, he said with uncharacteristic emotion, that I'm proud of you. Not just for your job or your success, but for standing up for yourself. It took courage to do what you did. Thanks, Dad, I replied, genuinely touched. That means a lot. And, he added with a wry smile, we're managing our finances. No need to worry about us. I'm glad to hear that, I said sincerely. Later, as everyone was preparing to leave, my mother hugged me tightly. We almost lost you, she whispered. I never want to make that mistake again. I hugged her back. You didn't lose me. We just needed to reset the relationship. The healing wasn't complete, and likely never would be entirely. Old patterns have a way of reasserting themselves, requiring constant vigilance and reinforcement of boundaries. But we were making progress, slow but steady. As I closed the door behind my family that night, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in years. The promotion that had triggered this family crisis had led to something far more valuable than a title or salary increase. It had forced me to confront the unhealthy dynamics that had shaped my life for decades and to take the necessary steps to change them. Sometimes I realize you need to be your own priority before others will prioritize you. Sometimes you need to step back for others to step up. And sometimes, a devastating text message can be the catalyst for transformative change. I've learned that setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's necessary. That your worth isn't determined by what you provide to others, but by how you value yourself. And that true family support flows in all directions, not just from one person outward. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with loved ones? How did you find the courage to stand up for yourself when it mattered most? Share your experiences in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if this story resonated with you. Your support means the world to me. And I'm grateful for this community where we can share our journeys together. Until next time, remember that you deserve to be prioritized, especially by those who claim to love you.